Hey guys, and welcome back to the Point Predictor, the series where I predict 5 players that I think will score points in the upcoming FPL game week. I can only choose one player per club, and I must follow the categories shown on screen. Before starting today, a very quick mention of OneFootball, who have very kindly sponsored this video. The world's best football news app has now been made even better, relaunching with a fresh new design. Gain access to news, scores and stats from leagues all over the world, with a brand new interface that's cleaner, simpler and smarter than ever. As for FPL, you can follow each team in the Premier League and then get live updates from all the goals and assists every game week. Download it for free using the link in the description box below. It was a positive start to the Point Predictor last week, with 4 of my 5 choices returning points in Game Week 1. There were assists for both Werner and Robertson, a goal for Aubameyang against Fulham, and my budget forward option Callum Wilson also bagged a goal on his debut. The only player that didn't return for me last week was the very lively Harvey Barnes, who put in a superb display against West Brom, but just couldn't take one of his chances to get me to the Point Predictor full house. So let's move on to Game Week 2 now, and see which players I think can be in the points this weekend. My defensive option for Game Week 2 goes to Leicester's new signing, Castagna. Despite heading into Game Week 1 with an array of defensive injuries and suspensions, the Foxes looked fairly comfortable on their way to an opening day clean sheet against West Brom. In that game, they only conceded 1 single shot on target, the least of any team, and also a lowly 3 shots inside the box, the second least behind Arsenal. Does that say more about West Brom's attack than it does Leicester's defence? Well, that's still to be seen, as it has only been 1 game. With that said, a home fixture against Burnley in Game Week 2 does look to be another decent shout of a clean sheet, I think, with the Clarets not really strengthening in the transfer window yet, and having a pretty depleted squad. As for Castagna, it was a fine debut for the Belgian, showing his engine to constantly bomb up and down his flank, and capped off his debut with a very well taken goal. My budget midfield pick for Game Week 2, below the price of 8 million, goes to Jack Grealish. Similar to a pick that I'm going to make later in this episode, this one could be very hit or miss, because with Aston Villa not playing in Game Week 1, we don't really have much form to go off. Villa did however play in the League Cup in midweek, with the club captain scoring an exquisite volley in the dying minutes. In this category, I could have very easily chosen a Leeds midfielder, with them facing Fulham at home in Game Week 2. But the difficulty with them and the Point Predictor is that points from their midfield could come from any of their players, whether it be Klitsch, Jack Harrison, Helder Costa, whereas with Aston Villa, if they are to score points, it's almost always going to come through Jack Grealish, and that's why I've ended with him this week. His opponent Sheffield United conceded 2 very quick goals against Wolves last time out, and even though it is very early days, perhaps there will be a case of second season syndrome for the Blades, who may not be as solid as we expect them to be this season. For the any price midfielder for Game Week 2, it made sense to me to stick with last week's choice and opt again for Aubameyang. The Arsenal frontman started the season well with a goal and a solid 7-pointer against Premier League new boys Fulham, and it wasn't just Aubameyang that showed confidence in Game Week 1, but the Arsenal team in general in what was a very assured performance. For their upcoming opponents West Ham, it was quite the opposite, with a dismal display in their home defeat to Newcastle. So granted, we only have 1 game to go off, but the small bit of form we do have suggests this game is a very decent fixture for the Gunners. Last season, West Ham conceded the most big chances of any team away from home, giving away 54 big chances in just 19 away trips. And with Aubameyang scoring 13 of his 22 goals at the Emirates last year, statistically he has a good chance of adding to his tally this weekend. He's also finally signed that new contract for the Gunners, and that can only give the Arsenal captain even more incentive to score in this London derby. For the budget forward, below the price of 8 million, I've chosen Calvert-Lewin. Everton as a whole were very impressive against Spurs in the opening game, and judging by how their opponents West Brom opened their Premier League campaign, you'd have to say that Everton's Game Week 2 fixture against them looks arguably one of the best of the weekend. If I had more than 8 million to spend in this category, then probably I'd have selected his teammate Richarlison here, who was extremely lively against Tottenham. but Calvert-Lewin at 7.1 is a more than good enough compromise, with this new look midfield behind him looking very solid. His opponents West Brom conceded the most shots on target in Game Week 1 with 7. They also conceded 11 shots inside the box, the second most over the weekend. Considering that was a home game for the Baggies, these aren't promising stats to take to Goodison Park, and do suggest that Everton may have a few chances to score in this one. For the any priced forward this game week, I've chosen Anthony Martial. Much like Grealish, this choice could go either way, because we are yet to see United play in the Premier League this season. However, if United are able to produce anything close to last season's post-lockdown form, then any of their attacking options could be an excellent prospect for this season opener against Palace. In my opinion, last season Martial was transformed upon the signing of Bruno Fernandez, and this is certainly backed up by the stats. From Game Week 25 onwards last season, which is round about the time that Fernandez signed for United, only 2 players managed to reach 100 points on FPL, and that was Fernandez and Martial. In those 14 game weeks, Martial scored 107 points and Fernandez 115. And when you realise that Salah, Sterling and De Bruyne all scored around 90 points in this time, it really puts into perspective what fantastic options they were in the second half of last season. There just seems to be a spring in Martial's step now, and he finally looks happy with the service he's getting behind him. His opponents Crystal Palace did just keep a clean sheet against Southampton in their opening fixture, and that is one small caveat, but I'm simply hoping United can start this season the way they ended the last one. So that wraps up my point predictor picks for Game Week 2. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode, and if so, be sure to leave a like and most importantly get subscribed to FPL TV. Good luck to you all for Game Week 2, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all next week.